Hi there, Phil the Practical Gardener again. I'm filming this particular topic on quite a stormy day, and that's predicted to continue for a couple of days, so I've decided to film indoors. Normally I prefer outdoors where the garden is, however a little bit impractical at the moment. And I think being inside actually lends itself to showing you the topic that I'm covering today, which is about heading cuts and thinning cuts. Now, I'm actually producing at the moment a series of tips about different aspects of training and pruning, such as what we call the 3-cut method, the timing of pruning, and pruning for form. So be sure to watch those ones as they come online, and some of them I already have. Now, this topic is also closely related to others that I've produced on fruit, for example, apples, stone fruit, grapes, citrus, and also ornamental plants. For instance, how to develop a specimen tree and how to prune a rose bush. Each of those is specific to that particular type of woody plant. However, in all of them, I'm promoting this concept, the heading cuts and the thinning cuts, with the emphasis on the thinning cuts. So, without more ado, let's get into it. I'm going to use this fuchsia here. It's actually a bit of a tree fuchsia. It grows about 3 meters at my place, and it's wild. It has got beautiful flowers, which the birds like, and also fruit, and it self-seeds quite readily. But it's not a weed, so I let it grow. It was quite useful to be able to cut a branch off for the purpose of this video. So, I'm going to start with a little bit of science because I think it's very useful to know this. There's 2 strong shoots on this plant. I'll use this one here as an example. At the tip of that there is a growth bud. It's called an apical bud. It's the one at the tip. Into this, the plant pours all of its energy. As it develops carbohydrates, plant foods, it promotes the growth of that bud, and that is how we get growth extension. This stem here will never grow any higher. It will only grow higher from that point up. This plant here is wanting to get up into the light and compete with other plants. However, I don't actually want it to grow any taller than it is now because it can get a little bit rampant if I let it. The way that the plant does this process is actually very clever. It actually produces a growth hormone or compound called an auxin, and I'll put the name here, which it then circulates down through the shoot. And it actually discourages or inhibits the growth of the buds below it. So there are buds at all of these leaf nodes, which is the angle between the leaf and the stem. There will always be a bud there. That bud would like to grow, however it is inhibited from doing so by the auxins that have come from the apical bud at the top. As the auxin travels down, it becomes weaker, and so there will be shoots further down as I'm showing here. If I choose to take off that top bud, that will take away the source of the auxin, and so what will happen is that these buds on the side will be stimulated to grow strongly, and you will get a plethora or a number or a cluster of competing shoots which will grow quite vigorously to replace this one here. Sometimes that's what we want. Very often it's not what we want at all. As we go down the stem, we move into ones that are more dormant. So these dormant buds here are getting older and older, and in some plants they won't shoot. Conifers are a good example of this. So if you were to cut to that on a conifer, very often it would actually die below this point, down to the point of the next branch. And that would be a point where diseases could enter the plant and cause damage and rotting. Also, of course, it can look unsightly on ornamental plants in particular. Sometimes we might want to produce what's called the heading cut, whereby we actually want to have a strong amount of vigorous shoots replacing that, creating a dense array of foliage. Good examples of this are on a hedge and also with topiary. And with them, we just simply shear over the surface as I'm showing here. We actually want to have a dense screen of foliage produced in both those cases. We also might want to do the same with flowering perennial plants, which we actually want to either deadhead or want to produce new vigor from further down the plant. Examples would be perennial phlox, or penstemons or alströmerias, a range of other perennials like that. Sometimes annuals also, such as salvias. This can be the simplest way to simply shear over the top. However, in most cases, I recommend that you would be doing thinning cuts. And all these other examples I've talked about, that is to say, the different fruit trees and also ornamental shrubs such as roses, we would do a thinning cut. So in that case there, we can actually cut all of the stem right off. I didn't bring my secateurs in, I'll just go and get them. Right, I'm back on target. Rather than cutting this far down, which is what 95% of gardeners actually do, I will actually cut it off here. You notice here that there is a weak side shoot. So if I cut this one off, and you can see I'm cutting around about 3 feet or a metre of stem, I'll cut off this one and also this one here. So I'm going to do so. There is also this other weaker shoot here, and I'm going to cut that off also. So these growths that I'm left, this is now a weak side shoot. This will now be producing the auxin, which will inhibit growth from further down, such as these buds here or these ones further down the stem, because it will carry out that inhibiting function. I'll just compare the shoot that I've left with this one here, the one that I've cut off. As you can see, a very big shoot. If you watch my video on how to train and prune a specimen tree in your garden, you will see that I have used both heading and thinning cuts, but most particularly the thinning cuts. This is a great way of pruning a lot of shrubs such as forsythia and oleander, callistemon or bottlebrush, quite a wide range. Some of them won't shoot from lower down the stem very readily. Examples can be proteas, for example. The thinning cut can be a very good way of maintaining the size of the shrub within a limited scale and also looking after the health of the plant. In a lot of cases, such as roses, we are wanting these shoots to now develop and produce a few large flowers. So this is a good way of doing this. We don't want a great mass of smaller flowers, we want a few specimen flowers. That is all for this topic. I hope you find that interesting and understanding. I would be interested in your comments and your questions. If you put them into the comments section below, I always look at that and I enjoy what I learn from them and also when I respond to them. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and like this tip, because this is what helps my channel to grow, and also it motivates me to produce more material and help more amateur landscapers and gardeners out there. So, thanks very much for watching this through to the end. Bye for now.